Before we get started, we wanted to remind you that all proceeds from our channel are donated to charity. Please help us help others by giving us a thumbs up, commenting, or subscribing to our channel. Your support makes a difference. Planning a river cruise with Viking? In this video, we're breaking down the top 10 booking mistakes guests often make. Some are unique to Viking, while others apply to river cruising in general. Whether you're new to cruising or simply new to this style of travel, these tips will help you book smarter and sail smoother. Let's kick things off with an easy one. Timing. The season you travel can seriously impact your experience on a river cruise. It sounds obvious, but we see travelers get this wrong all the time, tempted by a glossy photo or a great deal without thinking about what the experience will actually feel like. Every season on a Viking river cruise has its own personality. Spring is gorgeous, tulips, green hillsides, fresh blossoms, but it can also bring high water levels from snowmelt and rain. That can lead to itinerary changes, like swapping ship travel for bus transfers, or even switching to a sister ship mid-cruise, because high water levels make it impossible for ships to pass under certain bridges. Late summer and early fall can bring the opposite issue. When water levels drop too low, some stretches become too shallow for safe navigation, and you may face similar adjustments to the itinerary. That said, we typically don't worry about river levels. It's out of our control. It doesn't happen often, and Viking handles it as best they can. What we do care about is the overall vibe of the season. Personally, we book based on not wanting to fight crowds. We don't mind cooler weather, and we love the quieter feel of off-season travel. Fall and winter are some of our favorite times to cruise. Fewer tourists, crisp air, and a more relaxed pace. And if you time it right, off-season sailings often come with great promotions. So before you book, ask yourself, do you want sunshine and busy ports or a bundled-up stroll through a quiet riverside town? The right season makes all the difference. So once you've figured out the season that's right for you and avoided booking in a time you'd absolutely hate, it's time to make sure you actually get the best deal for that trip. Because no matter how perfect the weather is, it's going to feel a whole lot better if you know you didn't overpay. That brings us to number 9. Booking strategies that can save you money. With Viking, there's more than one way to score the right cruise at the right price, but each approach works best for a different type of traveler. First, booking early, like 12 to 18 months early, can be a huge win if you know your schedule and you're eyeing a specific itinerary. Viking often rewards early birds with discounts, reduced or free airfare, and the pick of prime cabin categories. Second, keep an eye on promotions and flash sales. Viking runs periodic fare sales, free or discounted airfare, and referral bonuses where you and a friend each get $100. Sign up for Viking's newsletter and check travel deal sites so you can jump fast when something good pops up. Third, there's the last-minute deal approach. There isn't an easy way to find these, but generally last-minute deals are wrapped up into the fare sale promotions, sometimes within 60 to 90 days of departure, where unsold cabins get discounted. But be warned, your cabin choices will be limited, itineraries fewer, and you'll need to be flexible with departure dates and cities. And finally, consider working with a travel agent, especially one who specializes in river cruises. Agents sometimes have access to group rates, onboard credit, or other perks you can't find on your own. Even if you prefer to book independently, we like using tools like rivercruise.com's search engine and their discounts and deals page. It's a great search engine for checking deals if you miss emails or Viking's frequently mailed brochures. You can see offers across different itineraries or sort by the biggest percentage savings, dates, or prices. If you decide to book during one of Viking's sales offering airfare specials, it's worth considering Viking Air Plus for more control over your flights. Even outside of sales, many passengers include their flights through Viking Air, which includes transfers and peace of mind if something goes wrong with your travel. But the downside is that you are sacrificing control over your flight schedule. But Viking also offers a program called Air Plus, which for an extra fee lets you customize your flights. Think choosing your airline, routing, layover length, or even arriving early in a city before your cruise starts. It usually costs around $150 per passenger, but if you're someone like us who likes control over their air schedules, then it is worth it. If you skip asking about Air Plus, You may end up with long layovers, odd routing, or arrival times that don't suit your plans. That brings us to the next tip. Ask about credits, but don't let them drive your decision. While Viking doesn't offer traditional onboard credits across the board, there are a few ways to unlock extra value if you know where to look. First, if you're a AAA member, you could receive up to $200 per person in onboard credit depending on your cruise length. It's a nice perk that can be used for things like optional excursions, drinks, or laundry. Just make sure to book through a qualifying channel. Viking also has a loyalty program called the Explorer Society. If you've cruised with them before and book your next trip within a certain amount of time, you may be eligible for up to $200 in travel credit. That's not onboard spending money. It's a discount applied to your booking, but it's still worth asking about. There's also Viking's referral program. If you refer a friend who books a cruise, both of you can receive a $100 travel credit toward a future trip. It's a small thank you, but if you're traveling with friends or family, it adds up. And finally, some travel advisors or agencies may offer their own onboard credits as part of their booking incentives. These can range from $100 to $300 per stateroom, depending on the agency and itinerary. While none of these perks are game changers compared to the overall cost of a river cruise, they're still worth asking about. Just don't let a small credit sway your entire booking decision. Of course, credits are great, but they won't help if your cabin doesn't suit your style. Start with how you cruise. If you love spending time in the lounge chatting with fellow guests or soaking up the sun on the top deck, you might not need a balcony. But if quiet time alone is your thing, a veranda stateroom or even a veranda or Explorer suite could be worth every penny. Now consider the ship's layout. If you enjoy afternoon naps or late starts, be cautious of cabins directly beneath the walking track because footsteps overhead can be surprisingly loud. Mobility matters too. If you prefer fewer stairs or need easy access, a cabin near the elevator can make your day-to-day smoother. And don't forget rafting. On many itineraries, ships dock side by side while in port. That balcony you paid extra for, it might face another traveler's cabin when you open the drapes. And that leads us into budget. Viking River cruise cabin prices can vary dramatically. A veranda or balcony cabin can be nearly twice as expensive as an entry-level or standard stateroom. If you're mostly out exploring or mingling, the least expensive cabin might be the smartest choice, freeing up funds for excursions, gratuities, or a future sailing. That brings us to our next mistake, one that catches a lot of first-time Viking guests off guard. If you've cruised before, you're probably used to making your final payment about 90 to 120 days before departure. But Viking doesn't follow that timeline. Viking typically requires full payment much earlier. In many cases, you'll be asked to pay in full a year or more before your cruise even begins. And if you've watched our channel before, you already know this is one of our biggest concerns with Viking. Why does this matter? Because even though Viking offers tempting early booking discounts, they're asking you to fully commit financially long before you sail. There are exceptions to this rule. If you've sailed with Viking before, or if you have multiple cruises booked with them, you may be offered more flexible payment terms. But for first-time guests, this early payment policy is the norm, and it's something you'll want to factor into your planning. It's not necessarily a deal breaker, but it's a major commitment and one that's very different from what most other cruise lines require. So if you're new to Viking, go in with your eyes open. It's not something you want to discover after you've booked. After talking about Viking's payment policy, here's another way to protect that investment. Arrive a day or more before your cruise. It gives you time to rest, relax, and even explore before boarding. If you're not booking a Viking extension, you can still come in early on your own. Flying isn't like it used to be. Delays happen all the time and the ship won't wait. Think of it as cruise insurance you can control. If you decide to arrive early, one easy option is to book a Viking pre-cruise extension. We've talked before about how much we love the options Viking offers. They range from simple hotel stays with transfers and a local representative to premium extensions that also include guided tours. For example, if you're sailing the Rhine, you could add an extension in Lake Como before your cruise even begins. You can always arrange your own hotel and transportation, and you'll probably pay less. But if you want the convenience of a bundle with transfers, hotel, and a Viking rep on site, it's worth considering. If you think you might want one, Reserve it when you book your cruise so you lock in the space while you decide. This is a good strategy since Viking extensions often sell out. You can always cancel it before final payment. If you do decide on a pre- or post-cruise extension, you've already started thinking about where your journey will begin and end. That naturally brings us to another decision you'll want to make early: choosing the right direction for your cruise. River cruise ships like Viking typically sail back and forth between two cities all season long, so you'll often have the choice of starting in either city or somewhere along the way. For many travelers, the deciding factor is simply which city you'd prefer to explore. Personally, we like to explore before our cruise. We're full of energy, excited, and ready to take in as much as possible. After the cruise, we're usually ready to head home, but that's just our style. Of course, there are also logistical factors. Sometimes it's simply easier or cheaper to fly into or out of a particular city, especially if you're booking your own air. If that's the case, take a look at those details before you lock in your cruise direction. There's another angle to consider. Some seasoned river cruisers recommend sailing downstream. When the ship is moving with the current, the ride can be smoother, the engine vibration less noticeable at night, and in some cases you may get more time in port because the journey takes less time. Upstream or downstream can matter, but the biggest mistake you can make is booking without coordinating when traveling with others. Viking operates one of the largest river cruise fleets in Europe, which means you can have multiple ships departing from the same city on the same day, or even trickier, the exact same voyage name, departing on the same day, but sailing in opposite directions. For example, your friends say, "Hey, we're sailing on the Grand European Tour with Viking on November 6, 2025. You go on Viking's website and find the Grand European Tour available on November 6, 2025, from Budapest to Amsterdam. And bonus, it's even on sale. You go ahead and make the reservation directly on the Viking Valley, securing your spot aboard that ship for your upcoming journey. Next time you catch up with your friends, they cheerfully say, "See you in Amsterdam." And that's when it hits you. They've booked the Viking tier, which isn't just a different ship. It's heading in the opposite direction entirely, sailing from Amsterdam all the way to Budapest. When the itinerary name looks the same, but the direction is different, that's where things can go sideways fast. You could think you're on the same trip, only to realize you've booked entirely different journeys. Here's how to make sure you're actually traveling together. First, when browsing Viking's website, unclick Hide Sold Out Dates. If it's turned on, you might not even see the sailing your friends booked because it's already full. Next, click All Sailings rather than Selected Sailings. Viking sometimes only displays promotional dates by default, which can hide other options. Then check and double check. No. Triple check the itinerary name, exact date, the direction, and the specific ship name. And of course, you can always work with a trusted travel advisor who can make sure all those details line up for you so you don't end up waving to your friends from the wrong ship. Why does this matter so much? Because by the time you realize you're on different ships or heading in opposite directions, changing could mean cancellation penalties, losing your cabin category, or finding out the sailing you meant to take is actually sold out. Okay, let's hear from you. What's the biggest booking mistake you've seen or almost made on a river cruise? Drop it in the comments so other future cruisers can learn from your experience. We hope you enjoyed our video about the top 10 mistakes we've seen in booking a Viking river cruise. Avoiding these mistakes can save you stress, money, and even your cruise. Plan smart, double-check the details, and you'll set yourself up for an amazing trip. Always remember to make meaningful and healthy travel happen, and we'll see you next time.